Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi students, welcome to this channel in your communication workshop. My name is Turnastiti. I am one of the facilitator in the business communication and negotiation, as well as the lecturer of Department of Management, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Gadjah Mada. In this today's sharing, let me share you about a thought in getting better understanding in doing communication, especially in managing conflict when you are dealing with a meeting. What is the specific approach we are going to use in dealing with conflict better? We call it as an approach of design thinking. Well, have you ever been becoming a leader of a meeting in which there are too much conflict in your meeting? You may set your experiences on it. I believe so that some of you might be ever been in that situation when you are coming to be the leader of a meeting and you found a condition in the meeting, so many audiences over there having a specific conflict and trying to persuade you to follow their suggestion. Definitely, we are dealing a conflict in that meeting. Then what is our responsibility as a leader to manage that conflict better? Let me take you to the ideas of design thinking. In Bahasa, we will call it as the pemikiran design, a design thinking approach in managing conflict in this very special context of doing communication in a meeting. Within this discussion, student, let me take you to several stages of explanation. In the first part, let me take you to the background understanding about what is communication, also what is a meeting, as well as what is a design thinking. Afterward, let me take you to the first stage of design thinking. We call it as the innovation space. In this innovation space, we will have two stages of explanation. The first one is about discovery, and secondly is interpretation. And in the next stage, let me take you to the solution space. This is the second stage in the design thinking, in which we will have a detailed discussion about ideation, experimentation, as well as about evolution. Let me take you to the first stage of this discussion to know the background of all of our understanding in our today's topics. Well, let's define clearly what is communication. As well, a general explanation is provided over there. This is about two-way process of reaching mutual understanding in which participants not only exchange, encode, or decode information, use ideas and feeling, but also create and share meaning. Something that may grab our understanding about the definition of communication. Communication is not only about sending messages and also receiving feedback afterwards, but communication is also about developing a mutual understanding as well as to create and share meaning. Okay, that's so fabulous in the definition of communication. So when you are coming to the real situation and then in that time you send a message and there is no reply coming from your friends, it means that you are not dealing with an effective communication. Because in effective communication, there have to be a process of sending the message and also receiving the feedback, and to make sure that there is a common understanding of the sender to the receiver. So that's the general definition of communication. If we try to look more deeper in the processes of communication, then we will find this figure, student. In the communication, definitely there will be a sender, there will be also a receiver. There is a phase of sending the message, the transmission space, and afterward, there is a phase of receiving a feedback. We call it as the feedback processes. In the middle of the communication processes, we can find out there might be lot of noises, and one of the noises in our meeting, because the meeting is one of the communication media, one of the noises in communication is about getting a very high conflict in that meeting. Okay, student, what about a meeting? Well, so far we have a lot of conversation about a meeting. If we try to find out the definition of a meeting in which this is about a gathering of people to coordinate together, to discuss together, and also to find out a decision about something in the very specific concern. So they have mutual goals and they try to coordinate how to achieve the goals, how about the strategy, how about the decision making. So the activity to collect all of the people together to have that discussion, we call it as a meeting. If we try to make a comparison of a meeting with the media of communication, then we can conclude a meeting as the most two highest, to richest communication media in which within the meeting, within the meeting activities, it can be concluded as the face-to-face communication and also spoken communication electronically transmitted. It is clustered as the high information richness communication media. Why? Because in a meeting, a lot of audience are sitting together. They are discussing together. The transmission space and also the feedback phase were conducted continuously within the meeting. So it is very fast and also it is very continuously conducted. So in that reason why meeting can be concluded as the media of communication in the upper higher level of the media richness in communication. Why? Because this is very fast to develop a common understanding within the meeting. Okay, student, in a meeting, there might be a possibility of getting a conflict. Why we can find out a conflict in the meeting? Definitely student, because there are a lot of audiences in our meeting, right? There might be yourself as the leader and one more participants or couple of participants attending your meeting. If you are dealing with classes, there might be a possibility of you as the facilitator meeting with 50 students under a very specific meetings, because there are a lot of audiences in the meeting. There might be a possibility, very high possibility to have a conflict within our meeting. Let's see about the approaches of seeing conflict, student. There is a traditional view seeing that conflict in the meeting is something which is destructive. Why? Because if we have a conflict meeting, this conflict is going to create higher conflict and finally will be negatively related with the activities to develop common understanding in our meeting. Secondly, in the contemporary view, we can see that conflict is something which is acceptable in a meeting, but the conflict should has to be a functional conflict. So instead of dysfunctional conflict, that conflict should be becoming a functional conflict. And also in the interactionist point of view, we can see that conflict is really inevitable in our daily activities in a meeting, but even we can also create a conflict within a meeting in a purpose of creativity. We can see that nowadays most of the conflict in a meeting can be clustered in the contemporary point of view and also interactionist point of view. Conflict is something which is inevitable in the meeting, as well as conflict have to be functional, and also by using a conflict we can create more creativity in the meeting. So getting ready to have a conflict within your own meeting. Okay, student, there will be a lot of approaches of managing conflict in our meeting. We can have a directive approach. In the directive approach, as the leader of the meeting, we can just share our suggestion and direction to all of the audience and ask the audience to follow our direction. This is our first approach. The second approach we can see, we can call it as the let it flows approach. In this let it flows approach, as the leader of the meeting, we don't do something. We trying to maintain the harmony. We don't try to handle directly the conflict. We just let the time to find out the solution by itself about the conflict. This is the second approach. But currently, we will have a discussion about the design thinking approach. In the design thinking approach, basically, there will be a solution space and also innovation space. In the solution space, we will find find that the first and then the second stage. We call it as the discovery, and the second one is interpretation. In the solution space, we will find that three different stages. The first one is ideation, secondly is experimentation, and also the third one is evolution. But the basic ideas of the design thinking is about thinking in the eye of owner, in the eye of the owner of the conflict. So instead of thinking in our own shoes, we need to think based in their own shoes. So we need to put a sympathy, we need to put more understanding, we need to have a willingness to listen more, and also trying to find out more ideas by knowing specifically their own understanding about that conflict. So sympathy, inspiration, and also ideation, creative ideation is really that important in the design thinking approach. Okay, let's try to find out what about the technicalities of applying the design thinking approach in managing conflict in our communication activities in a meeting. The first one, let's try to find out what is the definition of design thinking as being listed over there, student, in our final in our PowerPoint. We can find out that this is about the human-centered approach. So instead of trying to be that innovative by finding solution by thinking using technology, very important for us as the leader of the meeting to see the reality by listening more of the conflict belongs to our audience, trying to listen their needs, and also finally trying to comes up with the ideas. So we can see over there that our mindset of listening others needs and also empathy is really that important in the design thinking approach. Take one example, student. If you find out the problem over there, we can see that the problem is about a need working space, but we need to ask to the owner of the PC personal computer over there, what is a specific problem in your side. The owner of the computer can say that my problem is not about how spacious my working space is, but my problem is about I need to be more comfortable in my own space of working. So we need to listen that the problem is about the level of comfortable. This is about the comfort zone of working in very specific space. So we can see that the solution of this problem is not only trying to make it more structured in the working space, but we need also to provide more facilities to make the worker more comfort in the working space. So not only providing a new computer, a very sophisticated computer, but also thinking to provide more facilities, to provide a better working management, the working timing in managing schedule in your work life, as well as to think more forward of all of the activities that will increase the level of conformity of our workers in this situation. So please try to listen their argument in thinking about what is a specific problem they have in to share in our meeting. Okay, then let's move on step by step in the discussion about how to implement design thinking in our meeting. First, as the leader of a meeting, if we see that there is a conflict, there is a problem in the meeting, very important for us to see the problem as the inspiration. This is the discovery activity, student. I have a challenge. How do I approach it? In dealing with the discovery, there are three magical words over that. First, thinking that problem as an inspiration, then setting empathy, and also doing observation. So when you are listening, there is a conflict in your meeting, then set in your shoes, in their own shoes. Try to listen more clearly what is the specific problem of that audience is coming to our meeting. So you can see over here, if there is a conflict about the schedule of the meeting, because this is just too early to have the meeting, you can find out that the best solution of making them wake up to join the meeting is not providing more yelling for them to wake up, but to provide a very delicious coffee with a very strong, how should I call it, a strong aroma for them to wake up. So that's the solution. Please try to listen more carefully. What is the specific needs? What is the specific problem? And also trying to keep thinking about the promising solution can be provided. This is about discovery, trying to see the inspiration of somebody who has a very specific problem attending your meeting. Secondly, this is the stage, we call it as the interpretation stage. In the interpretation stage, the magical questions over there is about, I learned something, how do I interpret it? Currently, we are using our cognitive ability to see clearly who is the person. What is their needs? What is their problem? Very important for us to develop a persona. If we can develop a very clear persona, this is about the explanation about that specific person, the name, and also the expectation, the needs, the problem, and everything, then all of this information will be useful for us to develop a specific solution afterwards. The third stage, well, currently we are coming to the solution space. First, we will go to the stage of ideation. The magical questions over there is about, I see an opportunity, how do I create it? Currently, especially who is the person having a problem, especially what is the problem and also what is their needs. So you need to come in with a specific solution for them. Brainstorming is really that suggested. So you need to find out more fresh ideas and also to provide the information about that ideas to the owner of the problem. Then experimentation is coming. Please provide information about list of ideas that you can handle and ask the person to keep trial on implementing that very specific solution as being suggested by you and your team. And within the experimentation, well, trial, evaluate, and share is very important. And in the final end, we will find out a specific promising solution that is very effective to be implemented as a solution of that problem. Lastly, we call it as the evolution stage. In the evolution stage, I tried something new. How do I evolve it? So currently, we need to keep our commitment to keep working, to keep learning, becoming a lifelong learner, and trying to be more optimist on seeing the problem, trying to find out more inspiration, and also keep the experiences as the point of learning in ourselves in managing a very specific conflict. So students, those are all of the stages in dealing with a conflict, in doing communication, in dealing conflict better in a meeting by using a design thinking approach. So putting your empathy, putting your sympathy, as well as setting an inspiration, doing ideation to find out more creative ideas, and then ask for the owner of the problem to try on, and also keep learning within all of the activities. In the final end, student, let me take you to the technicalities, how to really implement it. So when you are becoming a leader of that meeting, and then you are willing to implement design thinking approach in managing conflict in your meeting, first, you need to stand in their own shoes. Well, that's the power of empathy, right? Seeing what is the real problem coming from your audiences. Secondly, thinking hardly and be creative. Try to provide more ideation, to provide them with more of list solution in dealing with that problem. Setting a comprehensive trial, you ask your audiences to try on that list of promising ideas. And finally, set your understanding, set your commitment to be a continuously learner, to always becoming a long life learner in your commitment as one of the leader in dealing with a meeting better. So student, thank you so much for listening all of the discussion and willing to listen your sharing afterwards about implementing the design thinking approach in managing conflict when you are coming to a meeting. So please put your empathy, please put your sympathy, please set your inspiration, doing ideation, and also becoming a lifelong learner. Thank you so much, and bye bye. I'll see you in another in another material of our content in the communication as well as negotiation. Thank you so much, student. Have a good day to all of you. Bye bye.